If you ever find yourself in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Florida, you might notice some of the old houses feature a delicate light blue paint on the ceilings of porches, window trims, and front doors. You might not think anything of it, but there is a special significance to this color in the American South, a region steeped in ghost lore. This color is known as haint blue, and it was thought to protect the occupants of the home from something evil and haunting in the night by the same name. My name is James Troup. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Haunting History. A haint is the Gullah term for haunt, and it can refer to a spirit or ghost who may be evil or maleficent. For the Gullah people in the southeastern United States, these ghostly spirits and the methods to repel them hold a great deal of cultural significance. The Gullah community is made up of Black Americans whose ancestors came from enslaved communities in southeast states, along with the Atlantic Plains and the islands found just off the coast of these areas. These communities can also be called the Gullah Geechee, or just Gullah, or Geechee, depending on if they reside on the coastal areas of South Carolina or Georgia. The Gullah community's unique culture and language is due in part to physical isolation. These enslaved people were forced primarily from Sierra Leone and Liberia to the American Southeast and developed their own distinct culture that remained especially close to its African roots. Dating back to the 1700s, the Gullah were known for their expertise in growing and harvesting rice, cotton, and indigo. The Gullah are often found in farming and fishing communities still today, and are also known for making and using Africanized goods like walking sticks and baskets. They speak an English-based Creole language aptly called Gullah Geechee, or sometimes Sea Island Creole, which is similar to Sierra Leone's Creole, but with the mix of several other African and European languages, including English. This language is believed to have first developed amongst enslaved people working in rice fields, who used a variety of languages they knew, combined, to communicate amongst themselves. They also tend to use African names, share oral traditions of African stories, and have a general belief in spirits and ghosts. The Gullah would use the indigo plants they harvested to create haint blue paint, which was then coated around the entryways of the home, like the doors, or around the windows. It was believed that the haints mistook the blue paint for water, which they were unable to cross over. Haint blue was also called Boo Hag blue, named for an especially terrifying kind of haint. As is the case with many stories passed down from generation to generation, the description of a boo hag can vary depending on who you ask. But there is a general consensus that a boo hag could have a ruinous effect on the lives of its victims. They're typically described as a type of witch, possibly conjured up by means of voodoo. They can be entirely invisible, detectable only by a pungent smell. They could also have the appearance of a human without skin, covered instead with tendons, muscles, and bone. A boo hag can enter a home if the windows and doors are left open at night. Once a victim is found inside, a boo hag will bridle and ride the energy of the victim, hovering just above them as they sleep, leaving them feeling sick and drained upon waking. The bad energy left behind from the boo hag could linger on the skin of the victim and impact their lives with bad luck or illness. Victims of a skinless boo hag may meet a worse fate. They could have their skin stolen. The boo hag would wear the skin, masquerading as the victim and slipping into their place undetected, stealing their very lives. In some legends, boo hags would target men only, destroying their life energy, while women remained healthy and strong. In other tellings, anyone and everyone could be made a victim. In Gullah culture, Boo Hags were sometimes blamed for a family or household dealing with sickness, death, or unemployment. The Gullah people would check on their neighbors and nearby community members dealing with these issues and sell them means of protection, like the haint blue paint and sea salt, which was another method to expel a boo hag. It's generally believed that salt can prevent a boo hag from attaching to its victims. Invisible boo hags could disintegrate if salt is thrown onto them, or if they're trapped in a container with it. To fight against skinless boo hags, families were also told to sprinkle sea salt on any skin they saw hanging in the closet. Brooms were also used as a tool to combat these vampiric monsters. Once the salt causes the boo hag to detach from the victim, it may reattach to the broom instead and can be swept out of the house. Others suggest that boo hags can't resist counting things and will end up counting each bristle on the broom. If a boo hag is distracted long enough and fails to return to her stolen skin before sunrise, she will perish in the morning light. The same is true for most haints, according to the blog haints.org. If a haint is trapped or distracted until sunrise, it can be destroyed. According to this source, leaving out bowls of sand or rice for the haint to count was a good method of protection, along with using newspapers for wallpaper, since these spirits are compelled to read every word they come across. The blog also notes that bottle trees, which can be found decorating the front yards of southern homes, can entrap the spirits until they're destroyed by sunlight, especially if blue bottles are used. These methods of protection against boo hags and other haints were passed down over the centuries, creating a shared knowledge and story teachings unique to the Gullah community. Beyond the belief in haints and boo hags, there are unique aspects to spirituality and faith in Gullah culture, sharing elements and similarities with Christianity and Islam. During a ceremony called the ring shout, participants communicate directly with ancestors and what's known as the spirit. The spirit can mean different things to each individual. Some describe it as the Christian concept of God or the Holy Spirit, or something more nature-bound. Ring shouts are both a spiritual and musical tradition. The African musical traditions kept alive in Gullah communities have bled into genres such as rhythm and blues, jazz, hip-hop, and gospel music throughout American history. Many of these practices have declined, along with the size of the Gullah population through more recent years, but they are still kept alive and showcased by groups like the Geechee Gullah Ring Shouters. Historically, many of the Gullah community practice voodoo and view nature through a spiritual lens. These nature-based practices can also be called hoodoo, voodoo, wanga, joso, or juju, and they can overlap with the belief in haints and spirits. Stories about haints, like other ghost stories, tend to have individualized local popularity, depending on the city or community. The general legend of the Boo Hag Witch stands mostly independently, although some specific instances of encounters may be retold. Storyteller and author Donna Washington told a Boo Hag story for PBS's A World of Stories collection. A more tame, shape-shifting Boo Hag is depicted in Pat McKissick and Onawumi Jean Moss's picture book, Precious and the Boo Hag. The legend of the Boo Hag remains prominent enough in Gullah culture to show up in everyday conversations. The saying, "Don't let the hag ride ya," is still used as a farewell idiom. Boo Hags and haints are part of a uniquely African-American ghost lore that was born out of the Gullah people's independence and resilience. Their historic struggle for land ownership may have also played a larger role in shaping their culture. After enslavement in the Civil War, the Gullah community fought to remain independent, living off the land as much as possible. Over the years, prominent white families and descendants of plantation owners have bought up much of the islands of the southeast Atlantic coast and have tried to force these communities to work for them and remove their land ownership rights. These issues still persist today due to high property taxes and skyrocketing property values that have forced many Gullah families to sell their land and move elsewhere. Despite these struggles, Gullah traditions remain strong and continue to play an enormous role in American Southern culture as a whole, with much of its elements still found in cuisine, home decor, and music in the South. This community still has many spiritual beings who inspire faith, artists that carry on traditions, and storytellers who pass on ghost stories to celebrate, preserve, and affirm the culture. Thanks again for joining us to explore these fascinating and chilling traditional stories. Let us know in the comments if there are any historically significant ghost stories local to your hometown or city. I'm James Troup. Until next time.